Hello. So my name is Marcia Langton. I'm the Professor of Australian Indigenous Studies at the University of Melbourne. Well, so here at the university, one of the things that we're very interested in relation to the local Aboriginal culture, is the traditional eel pathway through the campus. So eels travel, and they travel vast distances, thousands of kilometres. And there's an eel pathway through our campus, and it starts up there around about Trinity College. It comes down through the present student precinct, and it actually comes down here through Bouverie Street. And when I was working here 20 years ago, occasionally you would see in the season when they're travelling, they'd stick their heads up out of the drains, and the gutters. So we're with the permission of the Wurundjeri people, incorporating the eel into our campus culture and life by acknowledging that where our campus is located on Wurundjeri country, and that, like many other First Nations here in Victoria, the Wurundjeri people had an eel culture. So you asked me about the Bolon Billabong. A billabong is an Aboriginal word for a lake, and billabongs are often river meanders that have been cut off when the water stops flowing. And that's exactly what's happened here at Bolon, which is in the heart of Wurundjeri country. And there's a lovely statement here by Wurundjeri elder Auntie Alice Kalasa. She says, "I love being here, knowing that my ancestors held large ceremonies and celebrated in this place. I've walked this part of country, I know it, we're connected, I feel the ancestors' presence every time I am here." And so I think that's a very apt and beautiful statement that captures the way that Aboriginal people feel about country, and especially the important places in their country, like Bolon, which was a gathering place where people came in very large numbers, and it's reported that up to 500 people would go there. Of course, now it's a small waterhole, whereas once upon a time it was much, much bigger. But because of the change in the water flows, because of urbanisation and development, the flow of the river and the flow of all those creeks and streams has been affected, and now those, what were large lagoons and billabongs have now been reduced dramatically in size, which is a tragedy. And so the Wurundjeri people want Bolon restored. They want the water levels restored. And it's also pointed out here that Bolon means many lagoons. So you can imagine that once upon a time it was a large wetland. And it would have been therefore very rich in resources and the perfect meeting place for the Woiwurrung, right? Or one of the perfect meeting places. And it's one of the few remaining billabongs within the Melbourne's urban environment. So, it's a very precious place to the Wurundjeri people. So, apparently they gathered there during their eel harvest time. So, people traditionally caught the eels in a particular season, and they would smoke them or roast them. And they're a very wonderful, well, I'm sure you've eaten eel as well. It's a wonderful source of protein. It's a delicious meat. So people would gather in very large numbers and catch the eels and have a feast. So it's called Eok. The harvest is called the Eok harvest. And when people gathered in these large numbers, this became quite the social setting for negotiations, trade, arranging marriages, catching up with people, So everything that happens at a big feast. So the stories about this eok harvest have been recorded by Wurundjeri elders and placed on a series of plaques around Bolin so that visitors know that they're visiting a very important place in Woiwurrung tradition. Now, the land is not owned by the Wurundjeri. It's owned by the state of Victoria and it's managed by Parks Victoria. They're the official state managers, but they do acknowledge the Wurundjeri attachment, they call it, but of course they're the traditional owners. And now, of course, the billabongs don't flood anymore because all the water's been cut off by the changes in the water system, the natural water system. And this has also reduced all the plant species that people would have harvested at one time or used for medicine or used for making, everyday tools and baskets and so on. But there is a plan to try to restore the water level. So, we're all watching with great interest to see how that happens.